talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp, when my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Fool, said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell and echoed in the wells of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning, and the words that it was forming. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls, in tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the fourth episode of SCARS, Shared Compassion and Resource Services for the First Responder. As we do every night, we're going to go down the table. My name is Patrick Clark. We've all been with SCARS since it started, but I am one of the co-hosts, and to my left is the brainchild behind it all.
I don't know, but 4 episodes in, and I can't thank our followers enough. I can't thank all of you that are already live watching us enough. It's been overwhelming. It's been mind-blowing. Thank you all again. Continue to watch. Continue to invite your friends. Continue to drop us a line. We appreciate everything that's going on.
You never told anybody who you were.
Oh, I didn't think I need to introduce myself still yet. So
Fine, don't introduce.
Yeah, well, we don't need introductions anymore.
Yeah.
And
Good,
you,
Josh.
sir?
Josh Hagan, co-host, pumped up to be here as always, and super excited about all the steam that this is really taken off with, and just to watch how everybody's jumping on and saying what's up is mind blowing. We're only 4 episodes in,
Yeah.
and how much steam that this is taken off with. It's humbling, to say the least.
Yeah, humbling's a good way to put that. We've had a lot of feedback from our fan base. We have new likes every day. We've met our goal of 50 on YouTube. This is the first night that we're able to stream on YouTube and Facebook at the same time, so that is a huge accomplishment for us. And for this to be only in reality second month of being a part of this and having this operational, it's great. It's great. We can't thank everybody enough. The biggest thing is keep the likes coming in, keep your thoughts coming in, keep the ideas coming in, and actually tonight we're going to try to switch it up a little bit. Towards the end of the show, do a little QA, and we actually have some swag gear to give away tonight. We're still trying to figure out exactly how we're going to do that, but we got some canned koozies and a tumbler tonight that we're going to send to somebody out there. So again, thanks for watching, and with that being said, we'll dive right in.
So the last episode, episode 3, we talked a lot about trigger points, and that was a big topic of conversation, even outside of everything.
Says YouTube's waiting on us.
Uh-oh.
We have a little technical. We might got to give us some slack here.
Okay. Let me kind of figure out what that's all about, but we'll figure it out here in just a hot second. But one of the big things whenever we talked about trigger points is everybody, it struck a nerve, for lack of better terms. There was a lot of conversation that was had afterwards about it, and there was several people that told us that we needed to talk about it again. And so what we've decided to do this time was continue the conversation on trigger points, but also bring in the coping mechanisms as well. And after the last episode, shout out to Louis Martin, Myersdale, PA. He called after the last episode, and I mean, he was just pumped.
Yeah, he's on tonight. Yeah, absolutely.
And he is on there tonight.
Yep.
And that's
Says it's cold in Myersdale. It is cold here too, brother. The wind is just cut you like a knife tonight. It's ridiculous.
So when we talk about trigger points, to kind of pick up where we left off after the last episode, you know, we talked about trigger points are going to be different for everybody. And honestly, when you kind of break that down of what that means is the ability to, your ability to process the information, I think is what it ultimately comes down to. You had a good, in our pregame session, we talked about, you know, kids, and we say kids we say that as a blanket statement, but kids, whenever they get in this profession, the first thing that they do, or the first thing that we say to them is, well, you shouldn't have seen that.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have been cutting the car. It's not that they shouldn't have, it's just that they shouldn't have seen that. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to understand for people because, you know, here we all are. We all started as juniors in the fire service, and you know, you're right. We should have never seen that, but we did. Mm-hmm. And you built off of that, saying you shouldn't have seen it, but you did a good job in what you had.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have those conversations.
And it's key to it. Like I spoke of earlier. It's so important to, as a leader, to draw attention to the good things that people do, and you have to ask yourself, why did we get into this? Why did they get into this? And typically, you get into this because maybe you're an adrenaline junkie. Maybe you're a legacy. Maybe it's you want to help out in your community. And
make sure that people understand what the legacy part means.
So my grandfather started in Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire back in the early 1900s. And my father was a deputy chief there in Lumberport, which is approximately 2 miles away from us, and it was almost something that my brother and I just did. So therefore, we're a part of this legacy of grandfather to son to son. A lot of duos, and we were talking earlier about maybe some of the future episodes of doing a couple father-son duos of legacy people here at the barn, to pull them into the kitchen table and to have conversations of how did that work out in their household? How did it? I know how it ended in mine or started in mine. At 16, at 15, my application was filled out. And the day I turned 16, the very next meeting, my application was in. And so that's what I mean by a legacy. And as a leader, it's so important to, one, know who is got a hold of the tools, or who your new member is, who your probie is, and know who that person is, and then furthermore, be able to mentor them and teach them the craft of what we do. And then follow up with key things of the goods and the things that they need to work on, and the things that they maybe shouldn't have seen.
Right. So Louis Martin says a family tradition, and that's
Absolutely.
exactly right. So that's, to me, that's what a legacy is. I didn't just come off the street and decide one day, I'm going to go join the local fire department, because normal people don't do that, right?
Yeah. But we've seen it.
But we
Yeah.
have seen it.
The
And-
story I told earlier was that.
Right. So after our last episode, I think it's very interesting that you received a phone call from a very good friend of ours that was a police officer locally, and some of the prep work that the police agencies did to show them what they were getting themselves into. And I think some of that we don't prepare for. We don't prepare our youth for, our newer members.
That's right.
And by youth, I can mean anybody that joins as a brand new, non-legacy or non-traditional member. We don't prepare them, right? So we try to shelter them. But the point of having like the father-son duos would be to see how much the business has changed, what we see today versus what we've seen 20 years ago.
But I think you can also go into the fact of, are we mentoring?
Are we? And that was the, so we meet 2 hours before we actually come on and kind of brainstorm, and as some of the things that we talk about, and just like what you just said with the mentorship, look how young our officers are.
Right.
Look how, and we talked about this in our last episode of people who volunteer, and how much it's down now versus pre-COVID. And then I think it was you, Patrick, that made the comment earlier that said, somebody else will come. Don't worry about it. Somebody else will do it. And that's a mentality of society. They think that no matter what happens in their life, that someone's going to be there. Someone's going to help out. Someone's going to do what they're not willing to do, or maybe they just don't want to do. So it's definitely, not to make this a recruiting tool, going with what Dylan said with the police officer that contacted. I'm telling you guys, I talked for hours this week after our last podcast. Hours this week. And to have the conversation that I had, one, you have a police officer that was paid at the police academy, and they showed videos of saying, hey, this is what you're going to see. And these are police officers getting shot and killed. And these are some of the people that they rolled up on, and they see kids in suicide, and they see kids in vehicle accidents, and they see drug
classmates.
overdoses. Absolutely.
A
Classmates.
classmate.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Somebody I graduated with, somebody that I'm close
Yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
somebody
Small
that,
town,
yes,
rural, absolutely.
yes.
So when they seen that, he said that 50% of the class didn't show up the next day because it was too much. They were like, man, this ain't for me.
Right.
And I think that what prevents us in the fire service, and maybe even so in the EMS world, is we're already hurting for people.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to walk in the door, I feel like sometimes that we're willing to take our chances with them.
Well, we find something. for
Find
them.
something for them to do.
And we have had people in the past that have been very forthright by saying, listen, like, I'm not running into a burning building, but hey, I'll run car wrecks all day long. Well, that's one of the most tragic things that we could take a brand new person on. I mean, if you think about it, we see some of the worst on some of these car accidents, and we don't properly prepare, ourselves, let alone somebody else. So somebody made a comment about our seasoned people. Yeah, Louis talked about seasoned. What is seasoned? Expand on that. What do you consider seasoned? Just because you've been in a department 2 years, does that make you a seasoned member? Just because you've been an EMT for 2 years, or you got your medic card now, or you're a certified police officer, does that make you seasoned? Does that make you immune to the topic at hand? Like when you roll up on that first shooting scene or that first fatal car accident, how seasoned do you have to be to deal with that? How seasoned do you have to be for that, not to affect you in a negative way?
I think whenever you look at the word seasoned, though, you also have to look at the fact of, turnaround in police, fire, and EMS right now is at an all-time high. You have, somebody said at one point in time there was a waiting list to get
There
in
was.
places.
At several departments, there was.
I can remember Charleston Fire Department down south. I can remember they had, at one point in time, they had 500 people testing for 20 positions.
Right.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I think Clarksburg
Now you got 20
just
people
had
testing
4.
for 500.
Yeah, I think Clarksburg just had like 5 people
Yeah.
test for
Yeah.
them.
And so in some cases, you are the seasoned person. By the time you factor in turnaround and things like that, you may not want to be, but you are.
But for our seasoned, what I'll call, or our veterans that are watching the show with us tonight, 20 years ago, hell, 10 years ago, we didn't think about the fact that we may need body armor to run a call.
Yeah.
Never in a million years did I think I would have to step off of a fire apparatus with body armor on, out of an ambulance with body armor on. Like, we were the good guys, right? So that's how much the game has changed to where we don't have those luxuries anymore. We have to prepare these kids, as we call them, for whatever comes at them. You've got to be part fire, part EMS, part law just to do this job, and you've got to learn how to read the situation at hand, because if not, that's going to make it even worse. You're going to get yourself into a bad situation.
When I was a young officer, I had a seasoned, I ain't even going to call him seasoned, I'm going to call him a veteran chief, come up to me and he said, listen, I need you to make decisions. At the end of the day, I need you to make decisions. And no matter what decision you make, I'm going to be behind you. I need you to be able to make decisions based on the facts that you have right now, but never be afraid to change your plan, to never change your attack, or never be afraid to go defensive, never be afraid to go with your gut as information always comes in. Don't ever close your mind. And that kind of mentorship is something that I feel like society has gotten better. That this table, we don't see the fires or the car wrecks on a regular basis is what your grandfather, what your dad, what my dad seen years ago.
Right.
And we have to make the most of each one of these as we go forward. So we have to take everything as a learning example and really make it into something and almost a drill to teach.
You've played officer, I've played officer. I was one of those young officers. 21 years old, I found myself in a lieutenant's position. But as I got older and, learned more about fire, learned more about EMS, learned more about the business at hand, how many times did either one of you guys, and I'll ask you both, and if anybody on here could comment on it too, how many times did you take that 18, 19, 20-year-old kid and go, hey, just stick right here with me and let me show you something? And didn't let them go fight fire, didn't let them, but you took them right there under your wing and showed them things. Hey, look what the smoke's doing here. Hey, look at how we're cutting this car apart. Hey, we're going to land a helicopter and I'm going to show you how this is done. Did we do that, or did we short those people, along the way?
But did we also back when I was a young officer, there was a lot of mentality that had to switch at that point in time. In my head, there was a lot of mentality of not only now are you in charge, not only now are you going to be the senior guy to look up to.
Chris Batlow just said he did that to you.
Yes, he did multiple times.
Right.
But there are several times that, you know, we took that leadership and we kind of, you know, there were times that we grabbed the young one and said, "Come with me, stay with me. I don't want you to see this, so stay back." But then there were also times that, you know, staffing or whatever, that they were forced to see that, and we never followed up. And I think that is where, you know, we've highlighted that, I think, in all 4 episodes, that we never have followed up with them to say, "Hey, what you just saw was bad. How are you processing it?" It's not, "How are you?"
Yeah.
Because if I'm sorry, but 17, 18, 19 years old, you see a dead body, you're not going to be okay. Let's just be real about
Yeah.
that. And, you know.
Well, you're not supposed to. You know, we're not supposed to.
Yes, that's correct.
And then the other part of that is at 18, 19 years old, sometimes 16, 17. Let's be realistic here.
Yeah.
Now, not only did you see something absolutely horrific, nobody taught you how to cope with that.
Yeah.
But did anybody?
Nobody.
But did anybody even take the time to talk to you?
No, you watched them go
Well-
get a 12-pack and sit behind the fire station and blow off steam. Like,
Well, I
you thought
disagree.
that was normal.
I disagree. We had a post office. We didn't.
Well, same thing. But, you know, it's still a place.
Doesn't matter where it was.
Still a place. Yeah, nobody
But-
came out and said, "Hey, let's talk about this." Oh no, it was, you know, I mean, I hate to say it, but, you know, 16, 17 years old, you know, the little 7-ounce Bud Light bottles. Oh yeah, I figured out what those were real quick, and I thought that was a coping mechanism.
Marshana said it. What can I do for you? And that's exactly where the leadership now has kind of fell apart, because we don't focus on them anymore.
No.
But not everywhere. So I heard a
Okay.
good news
I'll
story.
agree.
I heard a good news story there a couple weeks ago. My dad and I were talking about the podcast, and my stepbrother runs with the local fire department in Marion County. And I haven't talked to him, so I'm not going to name the department or anything. But they had an incident where there was a fatality. And not only did the chief and the officer that was on that scene reach out to him later that day, they continued to reach out to him for multiple weeks after the fact to make sure, hey, you good? You coping all right? How, everything all right? Do you need to talk about anything? So they did a phenomenal job, I thought, in today's world. But, you know, I think of a call back, I can't remember how old I was. I don't know if you guys were on it or not, but anyways, we had a tractor that rolled over backwards on a gentleman, and his 3 sons were there on site. He was trying to pull a stuck tractor out, and he was pulling uphill, and his 3 boys were there, different ages. I think the total oldest to youngest, maybe 5 years difference. They called 911, and they rolled the tractor over. And more or less, you know, he smashed. He was smashed, and his boys seen traumatic arrest at its finest, right there, right in front of them. And it really made me think about, oh my gosh, what would I've done if that was my dad?
Right.
And we had to help. It was a body recovery. It wasn't anything that we could do to save him, but what was the process? Hey, you good?
Right.
We seen something that we shouldn't have seen, and it was talked about. So that's something that I've tried to pay forward as, not even as an officer, but as a seasoned person of any department, to be able to be that person to reach out and say, hey, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you, man. Whether it's at the barn, whether it's at behind the post office, whether it's behind the fire department, whether it's over a cold one, whether it's in the vehicle, wherever, I don't care. I'm here for you, and following up with them to make sure that,
you bring
that
up
they're
a good
good.
point, though, because I want everybody that's listening to think about this. How often do we console a family member that has just lost a loved one and we never sit down and talk amongst each other. Now, I'll go put, how many times have I hugged a complete stranger and said, I'm so sorry for your loss, and never come back to the station and hugged my 18-year-old brand new probie and said, are you okay? How did that affect you? And, Kim brings up a good point. Our daughter's 14. She's seen 3, whether those be fatal fires or whatever. Now, I'm not saying she's been right at the body or whatever like that. Sure. But
she knew what was going on.
Still knew what was going on, and we didn't have that. There was nothing like this back in the day to where you could be vulnerable in front of your peers.
Yeah. They would almost look down at you. Or you feel, maybe you felt like they would look down on you. And I think that was some of the stuff that we discussed earlier. Sure. There's so much of our egos that play into this, and you don't want to raise your hand. And I think that that's some of the scary stuff, that it's almost taboo for us to talk about
It's the stigma.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be okay.
Yeah.
And Shane Brown says, it comes down to truly understanding the people around you and to see what is going on with your people, not just families of those you've lost. And that's a valid point, because Dylan just highlighted it. We will console a family member all day long. I've done it.
Yep.
Dylan's done it. I'm sure you've done it, Josh.
We're quick to say brother, though.
Raylene, you're right. Same with your children. I've seen your kids out on some of those really bad calls, and that it makes you think now. Like, we don't think about it then, but you sit back and you think now, it's like, wow, what do I do to protect them? Because that's something that might stay with them. A child's mind remembers, and I'm sorry, they say that the development age, I think for males is 22 or 25 and females is 22. So up to that point, you're processing everything you see. So those memories are in there somewhere.
But somewhere, and that's what I was getting ready to say. How much of your 25 years have you blocked out?
A lot of it.
Right? And then try to separate what you're blocking out from your good stuff. Yeah. Because eventually it all meshes together.
Yeah.
And then, hell, you can't remember anything.
Shane Moomaw says, when it's your own family member, we're expected to be okay. I will never forget to look in Shane Moomaw's eyes when I opened the back doors of an ambulance and he was working on his own kid. So that right there is just, and who, and I don't even know, I couldn't tell you to this day if I called Shane and said, are you okay? No. And that's my fault. I carry those burdens that, that should have been something that I immediately picked up the phone and said, are you okay?
Yeah.
But I think some of the, to change lanes just a little bit, you hit on it. We talked about the coping mechanism from the fire service. And I'm guilty just as much as anybody else is. The answer was, let's go get a drink and we'll talk about it. We never talked about it. But we drank.
I talked about it.
Huh?
We always talked about it. I don't know what was you guys doing.
Well, we may have talked about it, but it was in
right.
But it was always one of those things of, well, this is what happened. This is why it happened. Now let's move on. And it's like, 20 years ago, or 20 years ago for me, when I got into EMS, it was, it wasn't a practice. It wasn't okay to even talk about it. And in the fire service, it was okay to talk about it, but you could talk about it for like a window of time, and then it was done.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that.
And if you brought it back up, it was like, seriously, you're still talking about this? Like, let it go.
Yeah.
And what is your coping mechanism now? Like, how do you now? I can tell you how I do it, and it's.
So one of the things that you said was, and I never really put much thought into this, Patrick, was, why are you bringing it back up? Let it go. People process at different timelines, and people understand things at different timelines. So whenever you're doing that, I think somebody, I don't know who said it, but know your audience, know your probie, know the people that were on the call, and understand who they are. And there's certain people, like I might be able to just nudge you on the shoulder and say, hey, you good? And you tell me, yeah, I'm good. And I believe you. We've been doing this a long time together, and I trust that you're good. And if you did the same thing with me, and I said, "Man," you're instantly going to say, "Hey, well, let's talk." So, where are we with knowing our people? Because there's
How much time hold on? How much time do we put into getting to know our people? Because there are some agencies out there that if you don't fit in the clique, then you're shunned. They exist, and
Sure they do.
anybody that says anybody that would say
I don't know
that
why you're
I'm-
laughing.
that I
Because it's true. yeah.
but I mean, but that's the thing. Like, if you don't fit in the clique, and they may do the subtle, but you said it earlier. They're quick to call you brother.
Oh yeah.
But by God, you.
Yeah.
If you're like, that call's not sitting well with me, and you go to try to talk to somebody, and you're not in the in crowd, what happens to you?
Right.
You're shunned
You're,
even
you're
more.
not in a safe place.
Yeah.
And that is, I think that's the whole point of what we're trying to do here, guys. Is
Yeah.
that is there wasn't that safe space, but here it is. Like we're sitting right here in front of you saying, damn
Call.
it, yes, there is a safe place.
Yeah.
And I don't care if that is right after the call, 2 weeks after the call. Sometimes your mind doesn't process that until way later after the call, right? And it hits you one day. And somebody said it's cumulative. Trauma is cumulative. And that is correct. Like you reach this breaking point to where the trauma, you can't unsee it anymore. And the strangest things start to trigger you, but it's because we never had healthy outlets to cope with that before. And that's what most of us turn to was, I've watched people turn to alcohol. Hell, I was one of those people that alcohol was my saving grace for those traumas. But other people, whether that was picking up smoking, whether that was, doing a harder core drug. I've seen people get hooked on pain medication. I've seen people that have been hooked on sleep medication, but that was their outlet that dealt with that trauma in an unhealthy way. So, if you're going to give anybody advice, what would that advice to be the coping outside of
Drinking.
come to us and talk, or find a safe place to talk? But how can we get that not only to the folks that are watching, but to the leadership?
Well, instead of asking us, why not the people listening? What are your coping mechanisms? How do you deal with your issues, or with your call, or with the call?
Or do you have that person? Do you have that one person that you can talk to? Do you have that group? Do you work out? Some feedback.
Working out. I've known a lot of people to work out. I know a lot of people turn to religion.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of people, unfortunately, turn to drinking.
Well, religion and drinking, they share a value where you can have wine. I think.
We're going to hell for that one. Actually, you're going to hell for that one.
Agreed.
But
Oh, everybody got quiet on that one. Look,
Yeah.
Now we were getting a lot of comments until we asked what your coping mechanism was. So, and don't be afraid. I mean, again, the folks that are interested in this, there's 29 people watching, and unfortunately, we can't tell you who those 29 people are until after the show. But those 29 peoples, what did you do?
I think one of the, and I'll give
Shane Brown bought a boat.
I will.
Shane, it only goes in circles, though. We know that.
I will say that that there's a lot of people out there that their coping mechanisms are indeed going to a gym or going. Mike Swagger said fishing, or something along those lines. But honestly, a little bit of time for reflection. Having that time to reflect on it, even alone. Somebody said, talking about that they just like to be alone, and that's okay to an extent.
But that's dangerous.
It is, because we highlight this in every single episode. The people that stay alone too long, what happens? They get in their own mind of things,
Yeah.
and they try to relive how it was supposed to be, or they try to second guess everything that they did. Did I do enough to help that person? And they get in their own head. They don't have somebody on the outside if I know that I know that if I'm having a bad day, I can call either one of you guys,
Yeah.
and we'll talk through it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And there's a certain point in time to where Dylan or you will say you need to pull your head out of your ass and or something along that sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But that, having that time to reflect and then taking that reflection to the next step of going to that person. Do you have your person? And I think that that's one of the biggest things whenever we dive into this is, highlight somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you know you can go with and you can spill your guts, and they're not, number one, they're not going to say a word. But number two, they're going to walk with you through the journey because they're not going to fix you. You might as well get that out of your head. If you honestly think that you're going to find somebody who's going to fix your problems, you're wrong.
And we talked about that. The word fix isn't in our vocabulary, or it shouldn't be in our vocabulary. How do you continue to put one foot in front of the next? So I want to go back through here. There's some really great comments, and there's one thing. It's way back up here, and I'm gonna call out on my brother. My baby brother put a post on here. His first week. You remember this?
I
Dylan?
remember this. Yeah, I can tell you.
16
I can
years
damn near
old.
tell you the dates. That's what's
16
bad.
years old, and he's six people died. He did CPR on one. Three kids of the six burn up, and he still thinks about it. And no one's ever asked. I remember I was in New Jersey. I was in the Coast Guard when all that happened.
I
and he
was on
called
one
me.
of those with him.
Yeah, he called me and he's like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this." Corey, tell us how do you continue to move forward? How do you continue to move forward from seeing that at 16 years old? That's, I mean, you're going back what, 20 years?
Right in that area.
20 years?
18 years.
Yeah. And Louis, you're right. There's how many times have we reached out or had groups of people together to have a drink, have a cigar, talk about the last call, and maybe how we word it is the last good call, when it may have been life shattering.
Danny, don't drink and be alone. I did that. I've tried that. It's bad for your health, man.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But yeah, I want him to comment, but I also want to say something here. Adam Hoffman. Sometimes from a leadership perspective, we don't realize the call has affected you. Maybe it didn't blip on our radar as a bad call, and we want to be supportive. We want to be supportive, but didn't even realize you were struggling. And I think that's a great point, Adam, is because all of us have different trigger points, and all of us have different perspectives of what good and bad is. So that is a very good statement that sometimes we don't realize, or something routine to me may have been catastrophic to you.
So,
Sure.
So Adam, build on that for me because I'm interested. How do you have something in place, or do you do something different to make sure that you're not overlooking that person? Is there something that you do from a leadership perspective? I know your background, so from your perspective, is there something additionally that you do to make sure that that you are catching those ones that don't blip on the radar as a bad call? The other thing is, Christine said coping mechanisms change. What worked 25 years ago for her doesn't work now, and that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years ago, I buried it.
Yeah,
I buried the crap out of it.
I did too.
And-
I think we were taught that.
Yeah. But now, here we are. Yeah, I read that one too.
You read that?
Dark humor.
Dark humor.
Dark humor, I think, is on all of our radars.
Absolutely. I can remember
Sure.
when I first got married. We're talking 18 years ago, and my wife happened to be at the firehouse, and she heard some of this dark humor, and she swore that we was all going to hell. And it was a conversation between her and I of saying, whoa, hey, this is how some of these people deal with their demons or deal with that call or that incident, and it's their coping mechanism. So it's absolutely out there. Well, right or wrong, it's how some of us deal
But
with things.
this is all learning too.
Sure.
I mean, it's when you go back and you're reading through other folks' comments, you're learning how other people have dealt with it. And it also helps you to realize, am I dealing appropriately? Is there something else I could do? Is that faith-based? Is that friendship based? Is that an outdoor sport and an outdoor activity based? You know, what is your out? What puts you in that place of complete and total
I think some
zen
of
for a little
I
bit?
think some of the most dangerous outs or your zen, like you just said, is us legacies, because I shouldn't feel, and Corey, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't scrolled all the way down. I don't know if you've commented or not,
So
but
he just, let me read you his. Yeah, it was December 26th. That happened day after Christmas. I can't really answer how I answer it. Tried to block it out, but I also sit back in another job that is completely different spectrum. I'm still holding people, but this is a lot harder because I'm not hands-on. I have to talk them through it. Yes, I know I can, but still hard. But I agree with dark humor. It also helps, but but is it right? No.
And if I'm thinking right, December 26th was the fire, Corey. If me and you are thinking of the same one.
And that kind of rolls right into what I was saying. I think as legacies, and I don't know how many people on here are legacies, but as a legacy, I shouldn't feel bad. I shouldn't feel indifferent. I shouldn't have feelings. This is what we do. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
born into
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And
We're-
we
That's
are
what
the
happened to
master
us.
of the craft.
That's why we're losing our minds in our 40s.
Well,
50s,
and but that's
whatever.
the
It's
that's
why
the,
we're losing our minds, because
He
we
looked at you when he
have
said
all
50s.
of this. We have all of this, these demons hidden in us.
Yeah, absolutely,
You
absolutely.
know, people don't want to believe that, and for you young providers out there, they're going to show themselves.
That's right.
They're going to show themselves, and it's all about how you want to grow as a provider, as a professional, as your own mental health. The time to think about this is now. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not 20 years down the road. You know, if you're in your 20s or 30s, think about this now. If you're in your 40s or 50s, think about this now, because in your 40s and 50s, you've already been affected. Mm-hmm. You know, and by the time you get to 60s or retirement age, you don't know what to do with yourself. You are so behind the eight ball mentally that you're on a downhill slide that just you can't control.
When we talk about the suicides in 2023, Patrick, I know that you've looked some stuff up. You may not have the answer to this, but what are the ages of those people? You don't know? I'd be curious.
He was on shift. This
He was
got
on.
released.
Yeah, he was on shift.
So it took place earlier this week. It was down in Texas. A firefighter missed a roll call.
I know. I'm going to do it right now.
Josh is going to stoke the fire. We're getting low on wood there.
Is that why I can see my breath also?
Yeah, it got cold in here all of a sudden.
Easy.
But I mean, he missed a roll call. His people said that was not like him, and they found him, and it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
In the station.
No, he was at home. He was coming
Oh,
on
I
shift.
thought he was already
he
on
wasn't.
shift.
No, he wasn't
Okay.
on shift. But, you know, there are the ones, where it happened. You know, people have killed themselves on shift. And, you know, ultimately what it comes down to is how in the hell did it get to that point?
Well, how in the hell can you be, especially, and this is for the paid guys, especially, and paid EMS folks, like, how can you be on shift with other people and not have a way out? That's your only option.
How did the people not realize that was happening? How in the world how are we so blinded by the sign? There are signs. They might be subtle, but there are signs. And how in the world could you be on shift with your brothers? And I hate that term. I'm sorry.
Oh, I
but
do
think
too.
It's the stupidest thing ever, because everyone's quick to throw it out.
Oh, yeah.
Until it means something.
Yeah.
But how in the hell could you be on shift with your staff member, with your team, and nobody catch that? It's impossible.
But think about it. When you read the article, at least when I read the article, I read he was alive.
Severely injured.
He was severely injured,
So,
and he lived until the next day. So at what point in time did they find him?
Right.
And was it only roll call? How much of the team was he actually a part of? Was he in the clique? And now this is pure speculation. I'm just throwing crap out there. When there's 3 people at the firehouse, they're typically together. When you have so many two person crew in EMS world, they're typically together, right? Okay, so like Patrick said, where was his team at?
Right.
Brian
Scary
Anderson
stuff.
said he saw a firefighter EMT committed suicide last week. That's the one we're talking
I
about.
think,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But again, especially these ones that happen in station, if you can't recognize that your partner has gotten really quiet and distant and doesn't have dinner at the kitchen table anymore, or is outside sitting on the picnic table by themselves all the time, or in a separate room from everybody, doesn't work out with everybody, only comes out when there's a call, and when they do come out, they look disheveled. There's something wrong with that person.
That's right.
And for those, when people go home, we try as first responders, and I don't care if you're fire, EMS, police, we try not to take all that pain and that hurt home. We really do. And but you will notice if somebody is not themselves, has gotten extremely quiet, has gotten extremely distant, that they're at their point of no return. And that's just being as blunt as I can be, is something has happened or something has affected them that they are having impure thoughts. They can't deal with the trauma anymore.
Change in attitude is key in recognize. But one of the things in the military that the best way to find out if somebody's ready to kill themselves is simply by asking them.
Yep.
Number
And-
one,
and-
simply
and-
by asking them.
But there are so many people, and I honestly used to believe this. I never wanted to say the word suicide to somebody because I thought that I would be like motivating them to do that. I don't know, that sounds a little stupid, but
So, all right, be vulnerable. Have you ever thought about committing suicide?
yes.
You?
Yes.
Absolutely. It is something that to me is very selfish. I know it's a very selfish act. It's a very easy way out, but there are times that it feels like that it's the only way to forget, to ease the pain, to get away from everything. So don't be afraid. If you're out there and you're listening to this, don't be afraid to admit that you're that person. I'm that person. Patrick's that person. Josh is that person. Every one of us sitting here in front of you today has thought about it and has just couldn't bear to think about the things that we have done, the things that we have seen, and the things that we've had to deal with in our career. And that's why a lot of us certainly aren't as active as we used to be or active at all, is because there's a time that it's time to take a step back and figure out where we're supposed to be, who we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to do, and fix ourselves mentally so that we can continue to provide the best to our customers, whether that's EMS-based, fire-based, or law enforcement-based.
How do you continue to help people without helping yourself?
It's tough.
And it is tough, and I think that's the product that we're really selling, is that peace of mind of not the fix, but of the compassion, the listening, the phone call, or like I said, after the last week's episode, I was on the phone for hours this past week, talking to people I haven't talked to in years of how awesome and what we're doing and how we're doing it and what they would like to see and how much it means to them. And to Wayne's point, this is stuff that when I said that, it's been years, but I've also learned how to cope. I've learned how I cope. and things that get me through, and who do I reach out to, and I've also been very selective on calls that I go on. I've chosen to sit back and not go on calls because we talk about trigger points. What is a trigger point? There's certain calls, unfortunately, and I raise my hand, I tell you guys, I read the CAD. Yeah, I don't want to see that.
Kids.
I can't see it. I don't
Kids-
want to see it.
Kids is a trigger point for
And
a
I
lot
don't
of us.
want to be back in my place. Now, is that selfish of me to have been to that battle and come out of that battle? And to send somebody else that maybe is less experienced to me into that battle?
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you're almost in fight or flight mode yourself at that point.
Sure.
And so, you are deciding not to put yourself into a situation, but now knowing that that is a trigger, that maybe your calling is now to like I just seen, I was just going to use that word, self-preservation, so that you can
That's right.
help the ones that were on that call. And I think a lot of us, and especially if we have children, kids become even more of a trigger mechanism. It wasn't until I had, a kid that I remembered every single kid that I worked on.
Yeah.
And every single kid that I touched, I felt like I can remember those vividly. And then, especially if it was an abuse case or a senseless act, accidents are one thing, but when you start dealing with intentional acts against children, and then your heart and your mind goes to your own children, and in my case, child, but for a lot of folks out there, it's more than one. But to think that somebody could harm their own child, or that somebody could harm a child, period, became a big trigger.
So bringing police into that full circle of Back in the Blue, the person that called me this week, and hopefully he'll join us here in the next couple episodes. But he got out of law enforcement. He was a detective at a local organization and local department here in the county, and he was a detective and was investigating child molestation and stuff like that, and he has young children,
Yeah.
and it drove him out of
How
it.
does that not affect you?
Well, it did affect him. It
How do
drove
you
him
just
to
not go
drink.
home
It
and
drove
just
him, yeah.
hug your kid and be thankful that, even though we're screwed up, I mean, let's face the facts, we are screwed up, but we still can go home and hug our kid, and they don't even know why. Thank God. Now, unfortunately, and Kim said it earlier, our child has seen more than what most children should, so she gets an
She's a
extent
legacy.
of it, right? And she's getting to that age where she does understand more. So, on those occasions where one of us would come home and just hug her and just want to sit with her, that makes all the difference sometimes.
So I don't know. I gotta highlight this. I don't want to highlight it, but I'm going to.
Well, that doesn't sound very promising.
It's not.
We're excited.
When we asked the question, when you asked the question to Josh and I, if we considered suicide, and we answered, our feet kind of blew up.
It did, and I mean,
And honestly, there's one on here that kind of makes me very sad. A lot of people have considered ending their life for what, I mean, I get it. My daughter, my oldest daughter was born September 2011. In March of 2012, I ran the house fire in the city of Charleston that killed 7 kids.
oh my, yeah, I remember that.
I can
Yeah.
tell you everything about the scene, but what I can tell you is after I cleared the call, number one, our administration was horrible and they made us go right back in service. But number two, I called her mother and I said, just check on her and make sure she's okay. And because I could correlate the fact that I just saw 7 kids die, and now I'm 45 minutes away from my daughter. I mean, the fact that we have, how many are on right now?
36.
We were up to-
39 was the
we were,
highest I thought.
no, I seen 43 at one
Oh, did
point.
you?
Yes, sir.
I thought 39 was
Yes.
the highest.
A majority, a large, and some people didn't answer,
And that's fine.
yeah, like I'm not calling you out by saying that, but some people didn't answer. But a majority of first responders, it's crossed their mind. If you go off of the national statistics, 58% of first responders admitted in a survey done by the national, I believe it was national shit, I forget the name of them, but you know, they sent out this survey. 58% admitted to it.
Now think about the ones that didn't admit to it.
The
You know,
other
if
40 the other
58%,
42%?
yeah, if 58% admitted to it,
42% didn't
guarantee
admit it.
50% of that 42% is in that
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
considered.
And I find it difficult because we talk offline all the time. I mean, we don't go 2 weeks without talking.
Right.
We talk almost every day. And you know, the Facebook stories that we share with each other about suicide among first responders right now is, you know, we said this in the last episode, it's at an all-time high. It's disturbing mentally to me that we have so many people that are killing themselves because they have no out. You have an out. I promise you, you have an out.
Absolutely.
Dylan, Josh, myself, you have an out. We have an email. We have phone numbers. If you don't have them, ask for them, and we'll be more than happy to
We'll
give them
post
to you.
them. Absolutely.
I mean, but ultimately, I'm sorry.
The comment that Mike,
I remember that.
I was there.
I wasn't there, but I
was,
remember
I
it.
was right there with you, Mike, and you know that one still to this day. I can see the look on your face when I got out of the ambulance. And that one does still bother me.
There's a road that is in the first due at my work. It was rough going down that road. I would start hyperventilating. I could feel like my heart was just racing. Shane Brown, Route 50 and I-79 interchange.
You ain't
Trigger.
wrong.
Jason Morgan, every child call I answer, I make it a point to hug my 12-year-old and tell her how much I love her. We live in a cruel and sickening world. I found that the blood and guts are similar to trigger calls for some of us. Some of us are the good calls that the younger generation want to run now. I mean, guys,
We were all there. Now,
Sure, yeah.
I've got to admit that we were all there at one point. Nobody wanted to take grandma to dialysis, but everybody wanted to run the 5079 car wreck or the 5098 rather car wreck that had, 3 ejected and 2 entrapped. And so, and building off of that, for those who run transports, think about this. Here's one that you especially wouldn't think about, and probably you haven't thought about in a long time. But Mike brought this one up to me the other night as we were chatting on the phone. He said, "You know what?" He said, "Think about one of those dialysis patients that you actually built a relationship with, and then one day you just don't go pick them up anymore." Mm-hmm. Think about somebody you've taken to a doctor's appointment every Tuesday for the last 2 years that you've worked for agency XYZ, and then suddenly you don't have to go pick that patient up anymore. You think that doesn't affect people?
There's a guy that lived in, it's called Big Ugly Creek in Logan County. We used to pick him up for dialysis when I worked down south. And I remember he was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll never forget.
I remember that.
Corey did get ejected from his car there. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but yeah. Now you think about Corey getting ejected from a vehicle. And I love you, Corey, but I bet that car looked like it was giving birth. But anyway.
He landed on his feet, he told me.
Yeah, he landed
He had
running.
road rash from the back of his
his
knees clear to
brother
his
got
neck.
ejected at 5098.
But he told me he landed on his feet. He's like the ninja. That's what he told me.
Beverly Hills Ninja, maybe.
Adam Hoffman, what that proves is that you can and should bring it up. Your partners, friends, and leaders have been there and they can help you. And even, the thing is, the three of us are okay with sitting up here sharing our stories. I will share my story all day long. If we went down the path, at one point in time, I had a plan. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to die because I was going through a nasty divorce. I was tired. I was working my butt off, and things just that it seemed like no matter if I took, it seems like I could never take a step forward. I was always, something was always happening. It was knocking me back down. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew exactly how I wanted to do it. And honestly, the reason that I didn't is because of my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, it's the thing is that anybody watching this, whether you admit it or not, whether anything, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that there are people around us right now, maybe not here, but there are people around us in our circle somewhere that is struggling. Have you reached out?
That's
Yep.
right. One of the things, so since we've been doing this, it's brought back so many memories, good, bad, and indifferent, but so many times that it's brought back so many calls because we sit here and we try to think of different things that aren't gore and guts and bad, and so many times that I keep finding myself, and I don't know. I was in New Jersey for 5.5 years, and when my brother was coming up through this, but my dad protected me from a lot. I can remember a specific suicide on Main Street in Lumberport, and I made the truck and I was going to go in, and Dad stopped me at the door and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to go in." He's like, "Well, what are you going to do?" I'm like, "I guess nothing." He
Right.
said, "There ain't no reason to see it." And so many times that he protected me from seeing stuff, and I don't even know if he realized what he was doing. Maybe he did. Maybe he's a lot smarter than what I always gave him credit for. But thanks, Dad. I appreciate that, because there's so many things that I didn't have to deal with and see because of him.
But you know, there's a difference there, and I think that you were very fortunate to have that.
Absolutely.
When you go into it as a career, you don't have a choice, and especially, you know, law enforcement and EMS, you know, even some of the paid folks, you know, that are out there, like, you don't have that choice. You know, I can remember running those calls and being on scene right behind PD. So, you know, PD got there and we got there right behind them, and we seen things that
Shouldn't have to
that will
see.
haunt
Yeah.
you forever, you
Yeah.
know, and that you'll never get away from. And, you know, fire scenes, you know, as a firefighter or a paramedic, you know, multiple fatalities like you've talked about. We've seen them, you know, we've all three been there. You know, Morgantown, there was a few that were like a frat house or college dorm or whatever the heck those, you know, housing was, but there were several of them, you know, and you pull up on scene and, you know, there's CPR going on in 3 different locations in the front yard, and what the hell do you do, right? And then we lost friends along the way. You know, that's another thing that haunts us. You know, some of our when one of our
Always.
mentors
Yeah.
when one of our mentors pass away, you know, there's so many thoughts and feelings that come with that, you know. And I can think of 4 right off the top of my head that are just devastating to me that they're not with us anymore, because I'd just like to talk to them one more time,
That's right.
you know. So, you know, and now we're at our hour, and we talked about doing some Q&A. So, questions for us. Let's take the next few minutes. Is there anything on your mind right now for the group, you know, that either your peers, Paul Ritchie, yeah, I remember that one, you know, your peers can answer, we can answer, and then, like I said, we've got some stuff we're going to try to give away. We're still pondering on how to do that. So I said, let's do the furthest distance, but hell, Shane would win everything since he's in Florida. So
We can just disqualify.
yeah, we're going to DQ him. But yeah, what's on your mind, guys?
If you have questions, I mean, even if it's something that, you know, we don't know everything, and we don't claim to know everything.
No.
We don't claim to be the end all to be all. But, you know, if you have a question that you want to ask us, please, by all means, throw it in the chat. We have it up and ready to go. We'll highlight it. We have some canned koozies, I believe, are what these are called.
Yes, yeah, can koozies. That's right. So Kim worked on these today. I was she's like, oh, we can do these, and they turned out freaking great. So we got 6 can koozies, and she did a tumbler up. So
The Tumblr is going to have to be a trivia question. And
Going to have to be, yeah.
and
Going to
Josh-
have to be.
Josh brought up a good point, and I think just because all three of us are fire, we thought it was kind of good backdraft trivia.
Oh
We
my
can do it.
God!
I think-
Backdraft trivia.
So I will. I think that you will in the next little bit need to come up with a question.
Oh, my.
Backdraft trivia, and that will be how we give away the Tumblr.
Hello, Google.
Well, okay, so Wayne, on our end, how is it going on getting resources for responders needing a place to turn to? So we've got a couple things going, and I've been working with a local therapist that wants to get on board with what we're doing, and had several conversations. So I think we're getting close. I also, what I would like to do is, I actually sent Dr. Martin a message the other day, and I'm hoping that he and I can sit down and talk about the psych residents at WVU soon, so that we have some actual resources to where folks can talk. Again, we are not therapists, we are not counselors, we are just a sounding board, right? But the thing about it is sometimes that's all you need. Maybe you don't actually need a therapist. Maybe you don't actually need medication, even though it does help. But we want to work with I want to work with her and a couple other therapists so that we have professional resources at our disposal. And a part of that is us being able to host classes soon. You know, as we are able to get funding in, we want folks to take CISM and CISD, health resiliency officer training, mental health resiliency officer, so that not only can we do it ourselves, but we want you guys, we want our fan base and our members to be able to provide those services as well.
So Donnie Stonebreaker said, "What's the best way to deal with it if you don't talk to anyone about it?" Honestly, that question is going to be very difficult for us to answer because I think that, and this is a personal thing, you can have time with self-reflection and you can think about the call. The problem is if you start diving too deep down into it, you're going to second guess everything that you've done or everything that you did throughout that call. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to think, did I do everything that I possibly could? And your mind is going to find a way to bring that back to you. And without having an outsider or somebody that could, somebody else that can listen to you and be a little bit more, I want to say the word logical, not say that you're being, but sometimes you're irrational. So having that safe space, it doesn't have to be a licensed provider. It could be, a best friend, somebody that you can sit down and if you want to have a beer with somebody, if you want to sit there and just chat with somebody, you can have you can have that person to go to. If you don't have that person and you want to talk about it, our email address has been up and down through the event all day. Reach out. We'll talk to you. Everything with us stays anonymous. We're not going to go around and we're not going to talk to people. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to magnify you to make us look better. That's not at all what we want to do. We want to.
You caught 517 on fire?
Yeah, we'll talk
Okay,
about that.
I just wondered.
That was hilarious.
Sounds
but
hilarious.
Send us an email. Josh, myself, and Dylan all have access to that email. We'll talk you through it. And it's not so much that we're going to sit there and tell you what's wrong with you. We're going to walk with you on your journey to make it better, and because it's never going to go away. You might as well forget that.
Charlotte Squires, could you send us a message with any information you have on that that assist and the Jamie's Law and all that? Let us know what that resource is so I can reach out. One of us would reach out pretty soon with that. I'd appreciate it.
Keith said, Patrick, any information on those debrief courses? Yeah, that's what Dylan was just talking about. We have found some, and again, it's more of a funding thing at this point in time. We still have some things that we need to do on our end to get established with funding and some other things like that. So the debrief courses are still a thing, and as we are able to give out more information on that, we will definitely we'll definitely reach out. Crystal, we have not reached out to NAMI. Send us an email about that so that we can look into that. so that we can, number one, figure out what it is, but number two, so that we can see what all that entails as well.
So a couple of them there. Charlotte, I don't know where you're located at, but yeah, get us any information you can. Let's get hooked up and chat. I'd love to chat further. Jason, yes, I'll give you a shout. We'll get together on some of the projects we're working on. I really want to do a meet and greet at some point, some kind of a picnic style thing or something to where we have anybody that has liked our page is welcome to come and sit down and chat. We've been talking about that. I also think that this will probably be the last time you see just the three of us. I think it's time to start bringing other folks in. Like I said, we've talked about father sons. We've talked about, we're still looking for somebody that to really keep us in the loop on the law enforcement side, because just to be quite honest, we're done when it comes to that piece of it. But I think that if we have some kind of mutual meeting place where
Did he just call us down?
I did,
out that
where
subject.
we all can get together and see each other face to face. So we have some options for that, and invite, the therapists that we've been talking with, invite the doctors we've been talking with, and the other specialists, to just kind of get everybody in the same room and just have a time that is for us.
Wayne, have you been able to reach out to police, fire, and EMS agencies to start building with them, so when the time comes and resources are needed, they can reach out to you and begin the debrief process? Yes. So there is going to, we were actually just talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
We will be having a session to where it won't be here. We're going to travel to a EMS agency. We're not going to name them, obviously, but we are going to travel to one and be able to have that conversation. And we're going to kind of make it, we'll talk about that one as we get closer to whenever that happens.
Matt, you hit the nail on the head, and I actually visited with Randolph County over the past week and had some great conversations. But what we want to do is we would love to, once we have some grant opportunities out there, and I know Shane's helping us with some of that. So isn't Shayna? She's one of the ones that's helping us with that. So big shout out to them to try to get some funding. But we want to have those classes, like we said, mental health resiliency officer, CISM, CISD,
CIT.
all the CIT, and become strike teams. The closest one right now is Cabell County EMS. But if we can get all that together, I would love to have local strike teams. This is just my vision, guys, and please, I am open for feedback on this. But if we could have a strike team in every other county to where it's deployable within minutes, at the time we know that our agencies, our EMTs, our paramedics, our firefighters, law enforcement need help, it's one call and we deploy. The other part of that is, as we get that up and running, we would love to become more affiliated with agencies to where the health resiliency part and all that is a third-party resource. And what that means is it takes the liability off of your own agency, and you contract with us to do mental health checkups. We would be able to provide quarterly, annual, whatever check-ins with each employee to evaluate mental health, make recommendations for changes to protocol or response protocol, however that needs to work. But that gets us into more face-to-face time with the responders.
Do you see this?
Employee engagement.
Donnie Stonebreaker. Do you know Donnie?
I don't.
I do.
We do.
Love him.
Who
Love you,
would've-
Donnie.
I didn't even think about that. I mean, out of all the times that we're sitting there talking, holy
And tow
crap,
truck drivers
that's what I'm
are
saying.
more likely to get hit at an
Holy
accident
crap.
scene than we are.
Yeah.
You believe that?
But-
I guarantee Donnie
look
has
at-
lost a friend along the interstate.
But look at his
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something.
But,
Yep.
look at what he said. I'm so sorry, brothers. I'm just a tow truck driver with 90.
You're not just a tow truck driver.
Dude,
No.
It's
No.
It's not.
You're a frontline worker just like the rest of
That's
us.
right.
Nobody is just anything here. I hate the terms, and I'm not digging on you, bud. I promise you. I hate the terms. Or I'm just an EMT. I'm just a firefighter. I'm just a paramedic. I'm just a cop. No, you're a family. And
bad.
all
Big Brother
together,
program, I like
you
that
are,
too.
You are family with that. Matt Reed said that that he would help any way John Napier just hopped on.
Gary Stahl, Big Brother,
Brother
program.
program, I
Love
love
you,
it.
Gary.
Love it.
I love that idea.
Cheryl Smith,
Another
we-
great friend.
Cheryl Smith, we have not forgot us dispatchers. We've actually included them in on this as well. We need to have a representative from dispatch, and that's something that
Yeah.
we're still trying to work on.
Donnie,
So-
you're welcome to come and hang out with us anytime as well. I think you bring a lot of value to the table as well from that
I
side.
know a dispatcher.
I know.
I don't know. I don't know if he's a good dispatcher.
I
but-
said I know one. I think he's pretty good. I mean, I don't want to take over the table or anything, but
I think there's a nepotism policy.
is there? Okay, well, if there is. Hey, I got the question.
You do?
for the
Yeah.
for the tumbler.
Yeah,
Is that what we're
I got the
So-
question.
So why don't you go with?
Wow, wow, Corey,
Oh,
you went there.
No, wait a second. I have one question.
Okay.
So is it for the tumbler?
Yeah. So we're gonna do that one last.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that
So
one last.
what is go with your local question that you had?
Huh? Oh, this one just popped up, and I don't even know why it was on my news feed today, but it was. Let me see if I can bring it back up.
Oh, Andy Barber. Let me tell the story real quick. So Andy Barber and I were working a transport truck in Kanawha County, and it was 517. That truck was the biggest piece of crap there ever was. It was not safe to be. Nobody should have been in it, let alone driving it. And we were leaving Charleston Memorial. We were coming up on the Capitol exit, the state Capitol exit, and literally it just like it was engulfed in smoke. Smoke started like coming into the cab. We thought it was coming from the back. It was coming from the engine. Like it was just like we were a big just a cloud of smoke. And we called our supervisor and we were like, "Hey, we think we might be on fire. We're not quite sure." And the garage said, "Just live it back. It's fine." So here we are driving through downtown Charleston with just a cloud of smoke. His window was down. I'm pretty sure he was driving, weren't you, Andy? I'm pretty sure. And his window's down. He's hanging out. We can't see crap.
Look like Cheech and Chong coming down that road. That's awesome.
It was horrible. But I'll tell you, the best part was whenever they said, just limp it back to the garage. It's fine.
Oh, yeah, it'll be fine.
I was like,
Famous
this is
last words
not
from
safe.
supervisor. It'll be fine.
It was great.
All right, so like I said, I just found this one today, and there's 2 right answers. So let's see who can get this. The oldest city in West Virginia. What is it?
Do I get an answer?
No.
No,
Oh.
no, because you could read it right in front of me.
Well,
It's also that you told us the answer.
Right?
I want one of the can holders.
Oh, yeah, because your daughter stole your cup.
So for one of these, what is the oldest city?
Look, everybody's on
In West
Google right
Virginia.
now trying
Yeah.
to find it.
Yeah, so it's going to be like a 5-minute delay.
And I'm sorry, we can't do this if you're on
Point Pleasant is not
YouTube.
No,
since-
we can see YouTube comments.
can we?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay.
can.
I said
Nope.
willing too.
Nope.
Nope.
So far, no.
Oh, we're getting closer.
Wheeling's no. Point Pleasant's no. Matewan's no. Hey, Matt Reed. He got it.
Shepherdstown and Romney, that's exactly right. So both of those were chartered on, what was the date? December 23rd, 1762. So Matt Reed will be sending you out a, somebody needs to take notes of this. Who's
Koozie.
I got it.
You got notes? Okay. All right.
Um,
So Matt Reed's the first one on that one.
which
No, I got another one
Okay.
because this one came up in conversation earlier. There is a county in West Virginia that is famous for having a particular type of apple, and I believe it's Golden Delicious apple.
oh, that's easy.
Is it really?
Oh yeah.
You know that one?
Which county in West Virginia?
So what
is-
county?
is notorious for Golden Delicious? Womp, womp.
Da, 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 da.
We need to put music on.
I know, right? Where's the Jeopardy music?
So the county in West Virginia. Nope.
Not Greenbrier.
Romney's not a county, Corey.
Not Boone.
I know dispatchers. I love
Not,
it, Corey.
not Berkeley. Clay, Wayne Ross.
Yes, Clay County.
Wayne Ross gets a koozie.
Very good, Wayne and Matt. Good job.
Yeah, yeah.
Which paid fire department in West Virginia has the oldest, the oldest local number?
So the lowest
The
local
lowest.
number.
Which paid fire department in West Virginia has the lowest local number? And
IFF.
And what is it?
IFF, which is the oldest IFF local in the state of West Virginia.
Who is it, and what's the number? Matt Reed, you're disqualified.
I was going to say, Matt, you're not allowed like me. We were former union presidents, so if we didn't know this, then we were. Adam Hoff or Chris Batlow's first one to say Wheeling. All right,
But
Wheeling
what's
it is.
what local number for a second koozie? There, Adam got it.
Adam got it. Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll do two. We'll send one to Chris and one to Adam then. How
Very
about
good.
that? All right,
That puts us down
Yep.
to 2.
Chris and Adam. We got two left.
What does SCARS stand for?
Ooh.
What does SCARS?
And it's on the back of the koozie, so once you get the koozie, you'll never forget it.
What does SCARS stand for? Shane, Charleston's 317, not 12. 12 is Wheeling. So what does SCARS stand for? The episode, or what you're watching, what does it stand for? I think tonight was it was good. We had a lot of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
We had a lot of people.
Marshawn, you're disqualified too. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure you know it because you helped. Or you made? Did she? She did the acronym, didn't she?
Yeah, she's the first one that said, "Oh," and I was like, "Oh, that's great."
Sorry, Marshawn. We'll give you one anyway. Show me the koozie.
Yeah, we'll show you the front of it, not the back.
Phone a friend.
Bullshit. Bite me, Clark. I was rushing. Oh, Shane. Come on. What does SCAR stand for? I said it at the very beginning of. I say it at the beginning of every single episode. So if
Now
you,
they're rewinding.
Oh, now everybody's rewinding. So we went down to like 0 viewers because they all went back to the beginning to start watching again.
how many are we up to? 37.
Charlotte Squires, there you go. Charlotte Squires was sending one.
Good job.
All right, and the last one, I'm sorry, I'm sending that one to Jason Morgan, whether he likes it or not, because we don't have a law enforcement question, and he's my law enforcement guru.
So, dude, everybody that's won a prize. So Matt Reed, Wayne Ross, Chris Batlow,
shoot what?
Charlotte, Jason Morgan, and I'm missing one. Who am I missing?
The PD, he just said.
No, I said Jason Morgan.
Oh,
Who's the
okay.
other one I said? If you want a prize, send us an email. The email's up on your screen right now. Send us an email with
with the mailing address.
with
I can
your
get it to
mailing
you.
Okay,
address.
so for the tumbler.
All right, for the tumbler. Here we
Tonight,
go.
we've talked about legacies. We've talked about legacies, right?
We have.
So the question is, the McCaffrey brothers in Backdraft, their father, what actor played Dennis McCaffrey?
Ooh, I like that.
This is for the tumbler. This
This
is
is
the
for the
tumbler.
tumbler.
This is for
Yeah.
all the, whatever you want to call it. It's the big stuff. Who played Dennis McCaffrey in the movie Backdraft? Matt Reed said you can deliver it.
All right, you talked me into it.
And Jason, I can bring yours up.
Well, we can get Wayne his too,
That's true,
honestly.
No,
And Alec Baldwin is wrong.
Right
Kurt
there.
Russell. Really?
Chris
Chris
Batlow.
Batlow. Ah.
Should have known that.
I was going to say, if Chris didn't get that,
Yeah.
then I'd have been upset.
Oh man, everybody else just. Brian Anderson got it.
They're all coming in now.
That was good. Chris Batlow, congratulations. Send us your address because I don't.
And
have it.
actually, because if you think about it, the dentist part would have thrown him off.
Right.
Because if you
That
remember
wasn't
the
a question.
movie-
I had to put it all together.
Huh?
I didn't Google the question, but it just kind of happened to throw in there, and I put
Because
two and
Dennis
two
was
together.
dad.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Dennis was the dad who dies in the beginning of the
Yeah.
movie. Right.
That's right.
Yes.
So there will be more of these to come in the future, guys. Don't get upset if you didn't win this time. There will be more in the future. We'll come up with some more questions. Probably be a little bit more prepared next time.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of put me on a spot there.
No, it was great. It was
Yep.
great. Anything from you guys before we call it a night? It's 8:21. We've gone an hour and 20 minutes tonight. I think it's great. Anything from
No,
you, Josh?
no, I'm good. I'm good.
about you?
I'm pumped up, man.
You know, this has been a wonderful venture so far. I really appreciate everybody. You know, you took time out of your Sunday evening to spend with us. And there'll be others that take their time sometime through the week that watch this and share their thoughts and share their ideas. But being out and about, you know, since I've changed jobs into what I'm doing now, I get to see a lot more people, and I've heard about folks that have watched us and folks that want to be a part of us and folks that want us to come to their agency and go live from there, and we're going to start doing that. Yeah. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all. This is therapy for not only you but for us. So
I'm excited. I'm excited for in 2 weeks. I'm hoping that we have a visitor. I'm hoping we have a guest, or I hope that we go somewhere.
Absolutely.
Maybe we can arrange that for next. We'll talk about that, and we'll keep you guys posted. I mean, we post every time we do a live event. We always post it on Facebook, and we always make the episode in YouTube now that we can do that. Mm-hmm. If you guys have feedback for us, if you guys want us to come to your agency, if you guys want us to come to you, and you have a group of people that wants to be part of this,
we'll let you pick the topic and we'll roll with it.
Yeah. Tentatively, we'd be on task for April 2nd for the next show. That would be our normal 2 weeks. I think we'll get to a point where we are on a more weekly. We might roll back to 6 o'clock. It might be a little more convenient. It just depends on what everybody wants to do, but. Since it is 8:23 now, and give us your thoughts on that. Do we need to go earlier? Do we need to go later? We went later the one because of I had some time restrictions and we didn't want to get into the Daytona 500 and all that other stuff. So
I'm all about going to Naples, Florida.
I was going to say so far.
Naples, Florida.
So far we've been invited to Florida and Myrtle. So
right.
Thank you. We'll be there. 6
right,
would be
guys.
a lot better. Jason Morgan, absolutely. Everybody and this is a great way to end this episode. Everybody be safe and don't be ashamed or afraid to reach out. Help is available, and that's 100% true. Everybody is, the three people sitting at this table, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt in our minds, we're available to talk. If you need something, please. The email address has been up for most of the episode. Reach out to us. You can get us on all the major platforms. Send us an email, anything at all. And until next time, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, TJ, good to see you, buddy. Until next time, everybody stay safe. Need anything, reach out. Shoot us a line regardless. Hit up our website. Leave us a comment on there. Till then, everybody stay safe.
What is our website address? Quick.
ScarsFRServices.com. .com. Yep.
All right, guys. Make sure you reach out. If you guys need anything, we're here for you. And always watch your backs, watch each other's backs, and everybody have a
Damn, Batlow wants his Tumblr bad. He already sent the email or his address over. He's having DTs without this Tumblr. Anyway.
Reach out to us, guys, and we'll see you in a few weeks.